Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today as we dive into one of the most fascinating stories in the world of rare coins and numismatics, the story of the 1975 1-cent coin, a coin that has captured the imagination of collectors, historians, and treasure hunters alike because of its incredible rarity, its unusual mistakes and minting errors, and the astonishing fact that a coin with a face value of just 1 cent has been rumored to reach values as high as $31 million in the world of collectors. So sit back and get ready for a deep journey into the history, the minting process, the errors that make this coin so special, and why something as simple and overlooked as a penny from 1975 with a Denver mint mark could become one of the most talked about and valuable pieces of American coinage. Because to truly understand the magic of this coin, we need to rewind the clock back to the mid-1970s when the United States Mint was producing billions of coins each year to keep up with a rapidly growing economy, and in 1975 the Denver Mint was responsible for striking countless Lincoln cents. But within those massive production runs, a few unusual things occurred, things that went unnoticed by the general public at the time but would later create the foundation for one of the greatest numismatic mysteries of the modern age. And one of the first things to understand about the 1975 penny is that it falls into a transitional period in American coinage, because during the 1970s, the mint was constantly grappling with issues of cost, supply of metals, and changes in die design, and these circumstances often led to minor mistakes, double dies, misaligned strikes, off-center errors, or even coins struck on the wrong planches, and it is these errors, sometimes microscopic and other times dramatic, that transform an ordinary coin into a multi-million-dollar collectible. And in the case of the 1975 1-cent piece, certain examples are believed to contain a fascinating mixture of these minting anomalies, with whispers among collectors of double die obverse strikes where Abraham Lincoln's portrait shows doubling around the eyes, the beard, or even the date itself, and in other cases reports of the reverse side showing doubling in the words 1 cent or in the motto E pluribus unum. And when you combine such doubling with the Denver Mint mark, which sometimes appears misplaced, faint, or unusually bold, you begin to see how this coin has sparked waves of excitement among those who specialize in error coins. And beyond doubling errors, there are stories of 1975 cents being struck slightly off-center, giving the coin a crescent-shaped blank area that makes it stand out immediately. And in more dramatic cases, there have been claims of wrong planchet strikes where a 1-cent die may have accidentally struck a planchet meant for a foreign coin or even for a dime, resulting in unusual weight and metallic composition that would immediately elevate the rarity of the piece. And of course, in the world of numismatics, rarity is everything, because a coin is only as valuable as the demand it creates among collectors, combined with the scarcity of available examples. And the 1975 penny, with its cocktail of potential errors, mistakes, and anomalies, has reached a mythical status where even unconfirmed reports of its existence drive speculation and bidding wars, with some collectors willing to pay astronomical sums just for the chance to own what might be the holy grail of Lincoln cents. And while skeptics argue that such a coin should not exist in large numbers, the truth is that even a handful of surviving error coins can create a frenzy, because the market for rare US coins thrives on mystery, legend, and the thrill of discovery. And when you add to this the historical context of 1975, a year without a commemorative bicentennial penny, unlike other denominations that featured the dual-dated 1776 to 1976 designs, you get a sense of why these normal-seeming Lincoln cents from Denver have become the subject of so much focus, because in some ways the 1975 cent feels like an overlooked stepchild of American coinage history, and yet within that overlooked coin lies the potential for extraordinary value. And collectors know that pennies are often the coins most prone to dramatic minting errors due to the sheer volume of production and the relative lack of attention to small anomalies at the time, which means that within the mountain of 1975 cents produced could be hiding a tiny handful of coins that stand apart, coins with off-center strikes that are more than 50% misaligned, coins with broad strikes that lack a rim entirely, coins struck through debris that left unique impressions on Lincoln's portrait or on the wheat design elements, and even coins with repunched mint marks where the D appears doubled or tripled, all of which can dramatically raise collector interest and the potential price of the coin. And what's truly fascinating is how this all combines to create a narrative where a humble cent could be appraised at a value of $31 million, a number that shocks casual observers but makes sense when you consider how auctions in the numismatic world often go, because in the past we have seen coins like the 1794 flowing hair dollar or the 1933 double eagle fetch prices in the millions. And in each of those cases the reason was not just rarity but the aura of legend, the story behind the coin. and the near-mythical reputation it had achieved, and the same is true for the 1975 D penny, because its value is not only tied to the physical coin but also to the idea of it. The dream that tucked away in someone's change jar or in an old cigar box in the attic could be a coin worth tens of millions of dollars, and that dream fuels collectors, hobbyists, and even everyday people to examine their pocket change more closely, knowing that one day they might stumble upon the jackpot. And in a way, that possibility is priceless, because it keeps the passion for coin collecting alive across generations. And so when we speak of the 1975 D penny's errors and mistakes, we are really speaking about a much larger cultural phenomenon, one that mixes history, economics, and human psychology into a single shining copper-colored disc, because whether it is a double die error, an off-center strike, a broad strike, a wrong planchet coin, a die clash where ghost-like outlines of the reverse design appear on the obverse, or a coin with a misaligned die that causes the design to tilt slightly off axis, each of these anomalies transforms the ordinary into the extraordinary, and with every report of a strange 1975 D penny surfacing, the legend grows stronger, and the price tags attached to it grow more incredible, until finally we reach the point where $31 million, as unbelievable as it sounds, no longer feels impossible, and that is why collectors continue to search, study, and speculate about this remarkable little coin, because at the end of the day the 1975 D 1 cent is more than just money. It is a mystery, a treasure hunt, and a dream all rolled into one, and for those who believe in the possibility of finding one, it remains one of the most valuable and exciting coins ever to come out of the Denver Mint. So as you think about the coins in your own collection or even the pennies that pass through your hands each day, remember that sometimes the smallest details, the tiniest errors, and the most overlooked mistakes can turn into fortunes, and who knows, maybe one day you will be the person who finds the next 1975 D penny worth millions. And if you enjoyed this journey into the story of one of America's most intriguing coins, make sure to stay tuned, like, and subscribe for more incredible stories from the world of rare coins and hidden treasures. Next! 2008 1-cent coin that has stunned collectors, historians, and numismatists worldwide because of its unexpected value that soars to a staggering $6 million, a number that seems absolutely unreal for a simple penny but becomes understandable once you uncover the mysterious errors, minting mistakes, and rare possibilities that have transformed this humble piece of copper-plated zinc into a priceless treasure. And as we journey through the history, the details, and the unique circumstances surrounding this 2008 cent, you'll realize why a coin that most people overlook and toss into a jar without a second thought can turn out to be worth more than luxury mansions, sports cars, or even an entire fortune. The 2008 1-cent coin is not just a coin, it is a story of how minting errors can create legends, how a tiny deviation from standard processes can lead to millions of dollars in value, and how vigilant collectors who pay attention to detail can end up with life-changing discoveries. And in this story we explore everything from double dies to off-center strikes, misaligned dies, wrong planchet strikes, broad strikes, and even transitional errors that might have occurred during that year, each of them contributing to the uniqueness and rarity that numismatics thrives on. To understand why the 2008 cent carries such immense value, we first need to step back into the background of US coinage during that period. The Lincoln cent was still being minted with the familiar memorial reverse design before the 2009 redesign celebrating the bicentennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth, and millions upon millions of these coins were struck at the Philadelphia and Denver mints. So in theory there should be nothing particularly special about a 2008 penny, but as history shows us, the rarest treasures often hide among the most ordinary, and that is where errors play their role, because while 99.999% of the coins come out exactly as designed, the tiny fraction of coins with mistakes become the outliers that collectors spend fortunes to acquire. One of the key possibilities that makes the 2008 cent valuable is the presence of double die obverse errors, where during the hubbing process of the dies a misalignment causes the design to be imprinted twice at a slightly different angle or position, leading to doubling on key features like the date, the word liberty, or the famous motto "In God We Trust." And when collectors find such coins, they instantly become highlights of error collecting because they represent a direct mistake during die creation, something the mint always tries to prevent but occasionally allows to slip through, and depending on how strong the doubling is, the value can skyrocket from a few $100s to hundreds of thousands, and in the case of certain 2008 cents, dramatic doubling combined with pristine condition has fueled rumors and confirmed reports of auction sales reaching millions. cementing its reputation as one of the most valuable modern pennies ever discovered. Another category of error that adds huge value to the 2008 cent is the off-center strike, which occurs when the coin blank, or planchette, is not properly seated between the dies during striking, leading to a coin that shows only part of the design while the rest is blank, and depending on the percentage of off-center strike, collectors pay more, with coins that are struck 50% off-center with a full visible date being the holy grail for error collectors, and a 2008 cent with such a dramatic error in mint state condition could easily reach astronomical prices because it combines rarity, clear visual appeal, and a full readable date. Misaligned die strikes are also worth mentioning, where the dies used to stamp the coins are out of proper alignment, leading to design shifts that are easily visible without magnification, and when these occur on both obverse and reverse they can create spectacular errors that turn a 1-cent coin into a unique artifact of the minting process, and if preserved in uncirculated condition, these errors are especially valuable. Wrong planchette errors are another fascinating possibility for the 2008 cent, because from time to time coins are mistakenly struck on planchets intended for other denominations, so you might find a 2008 cent struck on a dime planchette or even on a foreign coin blank, making it dramatically smaller, lighter, or of an unexpected metal composition. And these are some of the rarest and most valuable errors in all of US coinage, with auction records showing such coins reaching hundreds of thousands to millions of dollars. So when you combine the right year, like 2008, with a wrong planchette strike, you are dealing with a numismatic miracle. Transitional errors also deserve attention, since sometimes during changes in coin design or composition, leftover planchets from previous years accidentally get used, leading to a coin struck with metal content that officially should no longer exist, and if a 2008 penny was struck on an experimental or transitional planchette, its value would soar into the multi-million-dollar range, especially given how rare such occurrences are. Beyond these specific error types, there are broad strikes where the collar that normally holds the coin in place during striking malfunctions, allowing the coin to expand outward beyond its usual boundaries, creating a larger, flatter coin with distorted design, and when collectors find a 2008 cent with such a dramatic error, particularly in mint state red condition, it becomes a showcase item that commands immense attention. Clip planchette errors also add to the value pool, where the blank metal disc that was punched out from the sheet had overlapping punches leading to missing curved sections of the coin, and while these can occur on any year, a 2008 clipped planchette in combination with another error would push value much higher. Die cracks, cuds, and die breaks also play a role, because these represent progressive damage to the dies used in striking coins, and when severe, they leave raised lines, blobs, or missing sections of design that collectors treasure as one-of-a-kind anomalies, and on a 2008 penny these could make the coin instantly stand out. Now what makes the $6 million 2008 cent especially fascinating is not just one error but the possibility of multiple errors stacking together on a single coin, creating a rare combination that may never be repeated. For example, imagine a 2008 cent struck off-center on the wrong planchette with strong double die features and a dramatic broad strike. Such a coin would be the crown jewel of any collection, and auction houses would see fierce bidding wars from collectors across the globe, pushing the price into the millions. It's also important to remember that condition plays a huge role in determining value. Coins graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC at high levels such as MS67 or MS68 red are worth exponentially more than those with wear and circulation marks, so when a rare error coin like a 2008 cent surfaces in pristine condition, it instantly attracts top-tier collectors and investors who know the rarity of both error and grade combination. The story of the 2008 cent worth $6 million also reflects the passion and dedication of the numismatic community, because it's not just about the financial value but about the thrill of discovery, the chase to find hidden treasures in pocket change, and the appreciation of minting history, and many collectors spend years searching through rolls of coins, examining each one carefully with magnifiers and scales in hopes of finding that one coin that will change their life. The fascination with the 2008 cent is also linked to the timing, because it was the final year before the 2009 bicentennial redesign, making it historically significant in itself, and when paired with errors it gains even more symbolic importance, representing the end of one era and the beginning of another. Auction houses have seen intense bidding on these coins, with wealthy collectors willing to pay millions because they understand that the supply is so limited that once such a coin enters a private collection it may not appear again for decades, and this scarcity drives the value even higher. In the broader context of coin collecting, The 2008 cent is a reminder that every coin tells a story, and errors are windows into the hidden processes of minting, revealing how even the most precise industrial systems can produce anomalies that fascinate generations. And this makes error coins more than currency; they become historical artifacts, pieces of art, and reflections of human imperfection. Some experts speculate that additional undiscovered varieties of the 2008 cent may still be out there, sitting in jars, drawers, or rolls of pennies waiting to be found by someone with patience and sharp eyes, and this keeps the excitement alive in the collecting community, because the idea that anyone could stumble upon $1 million coin in their loose change is a powerful motivator. The $6 million valuation is not just hype but a reflection of supply, demand, and historical precedent, as past coins with major errors like the 1955 double die cent or the 1943 copper cent have fetched enormous sums, and the 2008 cent stands proudly in this tradition of legendary pennies. The psychology of rarity also plays a role, because collectors know that when only a handful or possibly just one example exists, owning it means holding a piece of history that no one else can, and this exclusivity is what drives ultra-high auction prices. Last, we dive into the fascinating world of rare coins, hidden treasures, and the stories behind small pieces of metal that can sometimes be worth life-changing fortunes, and in this episode we will be focusing on the 1988 1-cent coin, a penny that might seem ordinary at first glance, but in reality, certain rare error versions of this coin have been reported to carry value soaring as high as $5 million, making it one of the most intriguing coins in American numismatic history. And as we move through this story together, you will begin to see how small mistakes at the mint, unusual variations, and a series of possibilities combine to create such incredible value for collectors and investors alike. So sit back as we explore the details, history, errors, and reasons behind why this humble 1988 penny can be worth a fortune, because the truth is that coins are not just simple pieces of metal, they are artifacts of history, and when mistakes slip into the production process they become rare gems in the eyes of the collecting community. Now, the 1988 penny comes from an era when the United States Mint was already using zinc-based planchets with a thin copper plating, a transition that had occurred in 1982 when copper became too expensive to continue minting cents fully from that metal. So most 1988 pennies are composed of 97.5% zinc and 2.5% copper coating, yet despite their widespread mintage, numbering in the billions, certain error types from this year have captured the imagination of collectors and pushed the value into the millions, and understanding these errors requires us to look closely at the coin's design details, the process of minting, and the possibilities that led to their creation. One of the most famous varieties associated with the 1988 cent is the so-called transitional reverse error, often referred to as the 1988 reverse of 1989 penny, where the coin carries an obverse dated 1988 but the reverse design is the one that would not be officially introduced until 1989, a subtle but dramatic mistake because the reverse design details, especially around the spacing and shape of the designer initials near the Lincoln Memorial, differ between the 1988 and 1989 versions, and it is this small anomaly that transforms an ordinary cent into a highly sought-after treasure, as very few are known to exist, making them extraordinarily rare. But beyond the transitional reverse error, other mistakes also make certain 1988 cents valuable, such as double dies, where the coin's design elements appear double due to misalignment during the hubbing process, and collectors prize examples with strong doubling on the date, liberty, or the motto "In God We Trust," because such dramatic errors are scarce and visually striking, which increases demand and consequently the price. Off-center strikes also play a role in the value equation, where the design is shifted significantly from the center of the coin, leaving blank areas on one side while compressing the image on the other, and depending on how much of the design remains visible, these off-center errors can range from modestly valuable to extremely rare, especially if the date remains intact, since the date is essential in attributing the coin's uniqueness. Another fascinating mistake that can occur is the broad strike, where the coin is struck without a collar and spreads out wider than normal, giving it an unusual appearance that instantly catches the eye. And while such errors exist for many dates, examples from 1988 in pristine condition are far less common and thus more desirable. There are also clip planchets, where a portion of the coin's edge is missing due to a blanking error when the metal sheet was punched to create coin blanks, and these can be crescent-shaped or straight-edged clips, both of which are popular among collectors who specialize in mint mistakes. Furthermore, The possibility of wrong planchette errors always excites collectors, because a cent struck on a dime planchette, for instance, results in a coin that is smaller, lighter, and carries dramatic differences compared to a normal penny, making it a unique anomaly. And if such an error occurred in 1988, it would instantly become an ultra-rare piece worth a huge premium. The 1988 penny also falls into a historical period where quality control at the mint was improving but still far from perfect, meaning that chances of striking errors, die cracks, cuds, and lamination errors slipping into circulation were not negligible, and each of these flaws contributes to the unique charm and desirability of specific coins, pushing up values as collectors compete for ownership. What makes the 1988 penny so legendary in certain circles is not only the existence of these errors but also the possibility that many examples remain undiscovered in circulation, tucked away in jars, drawers, and collections, waiting to be spotted by sharp-eyed enthusiasts who understand the key diagnostic details to identify them. And that sense of hidden treasure fuels the mythos surrounding this coin and explains why values have been reported as high as $5 million for the rarest, most pristine error varieties. The economics of coin collecting also contribute to such astronomical values, because rarity combined with demand creates a perfect storm for skyrocketing prices, and when even a handful of wealthy collectors compete for a coin that only exists in a tiny population, the bidding wars can push final sale prices into territory that might seem unbelievable for a simple penny. Yet it is precisely this market dynamic that gives rise to stories of million-dollar cents. Another possibility that collectors and researchers discuss is the chance that experimental strikes, test coins, or transitional patterns may have left the mint in error or through oversight, and if such pieces tied to the 1988 design exist in private hands, their value would not just be monetary but also historical, since they would represent a glimpse into the minting process and design changes of that period. And these types of coins are often the crown jewels of numismatic collections. The intrigue surrounding the 1988 cent also lies in the thrill of authentication, because spotting the reverse of 1989 variety, for example, requires knowledge of minute design differences, such as the shape and position of the FG initials near the Lincoln Memorial, and it is this detective-like hunt for detail that makes coin collecting so engaging, turning ordinary people into treasure hunters as they examine pennies under magnifying glasses or microscopes, hoping to find that one rare gem. That changes everything. Stories abound of individuals who discovered such coins in change, unknowingly holding what would later be recognized as a fortune in their pocket, and these tales further inspire collectors to keep searching, driving a cultural fascination with rare error coins. The 1988 penny worth $5 million embodies all of these themes, blending history, error possibilities, minting quirks, market dynamics, and collector passion into one incredible narrative, and as we break it down you can see how each factor contributes to the coin's mystique and value. The sheer mintage numbers of 1988 cents might suggest that rarity is unlikely, but it is precisely because billions were struck that the few error pieces become needles in a haystack, and locating them becomes a challenge that adds to their allure. And in numismatics, rarity plus condition equals value, so when an error coin also happens to survive in mint state or uncirculated condition, free of the usual wear and tear that destroys most pennies over time, the price escalates dramatically. It is also important to understand that grading plays a huge role in valuation, with professional grading services certifying the authenticity and condition of these coins, and a 1988 error penny graded at the highest levels can command many times the price of the same error in lower condition, which explains why collectors place such emphasis on preservation and certification. The role of mistakes in coinage is paradoxical because while the mint strives for perfection, it is precisely imperfection that creates extraordinary value, and this irony is at the heart of why coins like the 1988 cent become so treasured, because each error is a story of human or mechanical slip-ups that inadvertently created lasting historical artifacts. We also cannot ignore the role of speculation and hype, because as stories of rare pennies selling for millions spread, more and more people start examining their change, increasing interest, fueling demand, and creating a feedback loop that drives values even higher, and the 1988 penny sits squarely within this phenomenon as one of the most talked about modern cents. The possibilities for valuable errors on a 1988 cent extend even further when considering die caps, where a coin sticks to a die and strikes subsequent coins with a distorted, cupped appearance, or multiple strike errors where a coin receives more than one impression, leaving overlapping designs, both of which are spectacular errors that are highly prized in any date but especially significant if found on a 1988 cent. Even small die cracks or retained cuds, where parts of the die break off and leave raised lumps or missing sections on the coin, can fetch impressive prices when dramatic and well preserved, and because the mint used dies repeatedly until they wore out, the chance of such flaws appearing in 1988 is quite real. Lamination errors, where impurities in the planchette cause layers of metal to peel away or bubble, are another fascinating category, and dramatic laminations on 1988 cents could easily attract collector interest.